Hello, Andrew Anderson. Welcome to Longer Crowbar. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. B or having a chat with her. I don't think this is going to be an interview.
Okay.
So, why don't you tell our viewers what you can help them with first?
What
So,
I
yep.
can help them with everything. I mean, well, not everything. I don't want to help them with everything because I do believe that most people are, not most people, but all people are perfectly capable of handling stuff in their own lives. So I do believe that, and they are. But what I help people do is leverage emotional intelligence in everything, every aspect of their life, whether it's trying to order a Starbucks or trying to negotiate the biggest deal of their life, right? So communication skills are essential in any business across the board.
Okay. So, I know what you do. They don't know yet. And you're going to be in for a treat. So, when you're talking about improving communication skills and emotional intelligence, I think you mentioned
Yeah.
that. Okay. Let's communication skills. Like if I'm a businessman or a businesswoman and I improve my communication skill, give me an example of what the result of that's going to be. And then give me a quick example or give us an example of like how you do that. Because I've seen you do this before. It's been amazing. I know in a conversation we had earlier this week, I could tell you what that is, but we were talking about just like if you're going into a negotiating contract, let's say,
Yeah.
and the other person you're talking, you think like you're talking at them. What are some of the things that you can do to help figure out what the other person's trying to say so you can get what you want and help them get what they want?
Right. Okay. So most of our communication is actually not what we're saying, but a lot by how we're acting. Our body language being one of them, but not necessarily the person's body language who you're speaking to. You could be in a conference room with 10 others, right? Like you could be speaking with the main guy, but they have all of their best in the room. So, one thing that I learned from working in biotech was that our collaborations we call interdisciplinary research. And those are our negotiations, right? Is we're trying to work with engineers, we're trying to work with biologists, molecular biologists. We're also working with people who specialize in AI and data sciences. And then we also have our business development teams and our marketing experts. And so what happens is everybody comes in the room and just starts speaking at each other using their own language, which gets very confusing. Number one, everybody ends up feeling very confused. But the other part is that then they're receiving the information based on who they are rather than based on who the person is speaking. So if I'm speaking to an engineer about something, instead of using my words, I want to use their words. So there's one tip that you could take all the way to the bank, right? Because when people feel understood, guess what? That also builds rapport and it builds trust. And it also facilitates the ability to bring out a better deal. So you may be going in thinking, oh, I want this, this, and this. And I just got to get them to agree to this, this, and this, when you may actually strike a better deal because you're able to listen and observe, not from within your own head, but from within there, right? If I'm speaking with an engineer and I think about what he's saying based on who he is and not who I am, well, then I might be able to see where we could maybe improve even what he's kind of thinking, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right. And so what I've found is that if it helps you in business, those things, if you apply them, also help you in relationships and dealing with other people. So why don't you give us an example of that?
Oh, absolutely. So, one of my favorite things that I use, and this works on teenagers also. So, I don't know how many of you guys in the audience have teenagers, but note this: using any type of question other than asking why tends to work pretty well. And also assuming that other people are capable of doing their job or doing their task, right? Like we raise our kids up giving them chores, increasing the number of responsibilities that they have. But then when they're doing something that's out of alignment with the behavior that we like to see, we're like, why didn't you do this? Or why did you that? Instead of saying, hey, I thought I asked you to take out the trash 20 times. Why didn't you take out the trash? Instead of doing that, one, I assume the best. Okay. So these are really good tips. So write them down. Assume the best. Assume that they are perfectly capable, and you know they're capable because you taught them to do the thing, right? So assume that they're going to do the thing. And then 2, just say, what's your plan for doing that thing? So instead of saying, I want to ask you 100 times, I just say, hey, my youngest daughter is Lou. I would say, hey, Lou, what are your plans for taking out the trash before we go to cheer practice? And then it's like, it's not me telling them what to do. It's me implying, 1, that they're competent enough to do the task. See, when we go behind them and we do the task for them, we're actually saying that we don't believe that they can do it. That's
That
the
makes
message
sense.
it's
Yeah.
actually sending, right? We think we're helping them as a parent, or we think we're helping them as a boss by doing their job. But really what it does is it sends the message that we don't think that they're capable of doing that thing.
Okay, then, so I'm going to go back to your question to Lou, in that you totally reframed it. So she couldn't get defensive.
No,
She had to think, like,
right,
how am I going to do this?
right.
And so it totally changed. It's like, it's like the ear flick when you're working with animals almost. When you touch them, they just stop what they're doing, and
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Well, it assumes that 1, they're competent enough to do the
Right.
task. And 2, it gives them power,
Right.
control. Like nobody likes to be told what to do.
Yeah, I hate being told what to
Right.
do.
Nobody likes that.
I'll do the exact opposite.
Right.
Even
But
though
if
I know it's in my best interest. I'll
right.
do
But
it.
if I said, hey, Andrew, and
Yeah.
your thing is websites, or your
Right,
thing
right.
is whatever, I say, hey, Andrew, hey, I'm feeling pressured from whatever
Mhm.
to have my thing done. And I say, hey, Andrew, I know you're working so hard on this thing,
Right.
and I super appreciate it, but and not but, I don't like to use but, I
Yeah,
like to use and.
but
I'm
is,
like,
yeah.
and, would it be ridiculous for me to ask if we could have that done by I don't know, 4:45, because I have to go
Yeah.
live at 5 and I want people to be able to click the button. And you're like, yeah. You're
Yeah.
like, because I said, well, this is another thing.
Well, yeah.
Because I said, is it ridiculous for me to ask
Mhm.
you? Most people would rather say no, because
Right.
no feels empowering. No feels like I didn't sign myself
Right.
up for something. So I end up getting the answer that I want, which is yes, only I got it in a no. It's not ridiculous for me to ask you that.
Oh, I get that part. All right. Yes.
See,
yes, yes.
you get to say, no,
Right.
that's not ridiculous at all.
Yep. And then think, as long as you paid me $1,000 a page for this, we're good to go, and I'll get it done by 4:45.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
You're
Okay,
like, yeah,
cool.
actually, we're, it makes them
It
think
took me a
about it.
second to get that part.
Yeah, but it
Very
gives, but
good.
it gives you the power.
It does.
And it doesn't feel like you're being so much put on the spot,
Mhm.
where it feels more like I'm putting it in control of you. It's
Mhm.
your job. I'm
Right.
assuming you're doing your job. I'm not
Right.
saying you're not. I'm saying, hey, I know we're already doing this thing. You get to think about where we're at in the project, and is that a feasible option? You
Yeah.
also could say, actually, yeah, it's a little bit, maybe I can't get it done by then, but I could probably have it done by,
Tomorrow or the
5:30.
next day or
You
whatever.
might
Yeah.
say even 5:30,
Right.
or whatever it is, whatever the case may be. But the point is that it makes them think about it. And what I want in any negotiation, and not just negotiate, everything is a negotiation. So you don't need to know how to negotiate or talk to people if you never talk to people. But I don't know anybody who never talks to people. Okay.
I've tried that for a while. It doesn't work out.
No, it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it
Like
doesn't work.
you got to order a Starbucks. I mean, most of the
Yeah.
stuff we can do on our apps.
Right.
And honestly, I prefer to just order my Starbucks on the app. But sometimes it's good just to, and I tell people to do this, to practice these kind of low stakes situations. Try it with your teenagers. See how that goes. Try it when you're at Starbucks and maybe your coffee wasn't quite right. Leveraging emotional intelligence actually creates more wins. And so that's what I teach people to create more wins, make more wins, where you win. It's you winning not at their expense. You're
Right.
winning with them.
Yeah. So they feel good about the win,
Yes.
and it's in their best interest. So, of course, they don't teach us in schools
No.
anywhere that I've ever even heard of.
No.
And yet it's probably one of the most valuable skill sets
Absolutely.
you can possibly have, because it'll change. Again, it all comes about health, wealth, and happiness.
Yeah.
It's going to change your relationship with your significant other. It's going to change your relationship whether you run around all day, whether you're PO'd because the cashier didn't do what you thought it to do, or
Right.
you get bad service. I mean, so you're not just this raisin that's pent up. And it's all because you're not taking control of it and using emotional intelligence, right?
Right. Well, and there's the other part is, well, the 2 points there. They definitely don't teach you this in school, and I can tell you that because I spent my entire life in school.
Okay, stop here for a second. So I didn't purposely, you'll notice with my guests, because I want to show you why you want to listen and watch these videos or listen to the podcast by what it's going to get out of you. So tell us about how you got here, because you're smart and you
Yeah.
were like, I'm really into the education you got. So
All of it.
yeah, and you're a accomplished beautician too, which
I
I hold in high esteem. So give us your background.
Thank you. Okay, so real quick, I actually was raised in a hair salon. Like my mom, I'm like the 4th or 5th generation of hairstylists. So my mom as a kid, like we had the salon in our house. So it was pretty crazy because as a kid, I hated it because everybody, talk about teenagers, knew my business. And they only knew, guess whose side? My mom. They didn't get my side of the story. They got hers. So I had to learn what I appreciate now was that because of that, I was actually raised not by one mom, but by a tribe of really brilliant women who contributed so well to my, like, just so much to like my upbringing and everything. And I'm so grateful for them. And they stood by me forever, like not me per se, but like my mom. And then my own clients. Then later I ended up doing hair, and then I did hair while I went to school. So because I was very successful very quickly doing hair, I was like, well, I'm working 3 days a week and I'm making pretty great money. I have a great schedule. I have 2 kids who are now going to school. Our oldest son, he was going to school full time too. So like I have a few hours, maybe I could go and work on my degree. So at the time I thought I'll just finish my associates because I have this thing about not leaving business unfinished, right? If I set out a goal, I would say I never fail. And I don't mean this in an arrogant way. I mean this in a I don't quit kind of way. If I set out to do something, then I do the thing. I finish it.
Right.
So I just went back thinking, let me just get this done. But that was the craziest, our first semester, because with intention, as we all say, it follows disruption.
Yeah.
And that was the most disruptive, one of the most disruptive moments.
So
that we
this is
ever
in
had.
your associate degree?
Yeah, that was first semester
Yeah.
going back to work on
Gotcha.
associate.
And you're married
Married,
to
3
David. your wife.
kids, house, white
Yep.
picket fence, all this stuff. And what was crazy is I tell people, I hope you get everything that you ever wanted as quickly as possible. Because what that does for you is it makes you in a position, or it puts you into a position where you can dream bigger.
Mhm. Oh,
Where
that
you-
makes sense.
Yeah, where you accomplish all of those things. It was like, here I am. I have everything that I ever wanted. I had the husband, the 3 kids, a dog, house, white picket fence, on the water, booming business. I mean, I was killing it. And I was like 24.
Wow. Did you have chickens and pigs at that time?
We had chickens. Actually, we did have a pig at that house. I had a horse, a couple, not at that house, but
Yeah.
but at the time I had had a horse. That was a super fun experience. I wish everybody should do that. Now, I did do a funny thing where I bought a horse and I didn't tell my husband. I mean, sorry, hold on. I told my husband, I didn't ask my
okay.
husband. That was funny. So I was like, well, babe,
Did he think it was funny though? What
yes.
did
So
Dave
here's
think?
where the negotiating part comes in. Okay. Like,
I have
really
actually
good at
this
it.
side of the story
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So the negotiating, I was like, well, babe, we said that if it was less than $1,000
Right.
that we don't ask. We both work hard. We both make a lot of money. It was less than $1,000. I'm on a horse.
But that doesn't include the monthly maintenance and everything else.
The monthly maintenance is still less than $1,000.
Right. Okay, cool. So go ahead.
But the funnier part of that was, like, for his side, 2 days later, there was a new boat in the driveway. I said nothing.
Yeah, right.
I was like, yes, let's go for a boat ride.
Yeah, cool.
Love
That
it.
was the emotional
Yes.
intelligence on both his part
Right,
and your
right.
part.
It's like, oh,
I think he's got you figured out.
yeah, like
cool.
we got this. We got this. Now we're at 16. You know, we've been
Yeah.
married for 16
So
years.
you didn't have to teach him. He picked this up by osmosis. Just
I mean,
Well, I mean, he's a
there's
smart guy.
training, right?
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, it's like training any AI, right?
Right.
Only
Yeah,
he's
gotcha.
he's got real
real life
intelligence.
experience. Yeah, cool.
I mean, he's not
Yeah.
an AI, you know. I'm not married to I'm married to a person. I feel like now I need to clarify because I am also a scientist and I don't want people to think
He's a real person. I met him. I like him. He's
right.
fantastic.
But now you're gonna go up to him and like make sure his like, he's like flesh
Right.
is not like robot arms under
Mhm.
there. Like, no, he's
All right.
yeah, sorry.
Squirrel. Yeah. Or rabbit hole, more appropriate.
Yeah,
rabbit
yeah.
hole. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we just got your associate degree. So
Yeah.
you tackled that. That thing's gone
That was
in the
done.
dirt. You're doing the happy
Then
dance.
I go
Then you go for
transfer, or then I go over to Old Dominion University,
Oh, cool.
where I ended up getting all of my degrees. I ended up getting a bachelor's in
cool.
biochemistry with a minor in biomedical engineering, and then I did a master's in chemistry, and I did a PhD in biomedical sciences with the concentration in bioelectrics.
Oh, cool. So once you hit those stair steps, you just kept on running.
Yeah, well, I just, I thought like, especially that first semester with everything kind of being as crazy as it was,
Mhm.
I got A's.
Cool.
So when you do well, it's like, okay, well, I guess I can, I'll
trucking
keep going.
with Old
And
Dominion. Yep.
yeah, like you just keep going. And then it was like, well, I really do like this research thing.
Yeah.
And I just kept going, and my research was like super awesome because this sounds crazy. I was gonna blow your mind, but in my research for my PhD, I used electricity to kill tumors and study the immune response.
Cool.
It was wild because like you treat the tumor with electricity and then for 5 minutes, and then you take the electrodes away and it looks exactly the same. But like in a couple days, the tumor dies.
That's all jacked up.
It's gone. No, like it like dies. It like starts looking like a scab.
Right.
And so what happens is like really cool, really powerful. So I was kind of studying these mechanisms and the immune response as being part of that. And what we saw is that the way that the electricity worked was it was telling the cancer cells to die, but it was also telling the immune system, hey, there's cancer over here. And how we know that is because then I would try to start cancer again, and I was using a mouse model, and they would reject it.
Wow. So the immune system was like ready to rock on it. It just
Right.
gobbled it
So
up.
it activated the immune system to help take it apart. There was no scarring either. So it was really
That is
like,
so cool.
I know, it was like really wild and amazing. And then what that said is that the immune cells also made memory. So kind of like how when we get vaccines as a kid, the point is that we tell our immune cells, hey, this is a bad thing. If you see this, make sure you go get that before it causes us to get sick.
So can I ask you a question? I may be totally off here. So let's say the immune cells remember. How do they remember? Is it mRNA or RNA, or they have proteins, or what
Yeah,
causes
they have,
that?
so they have proteins, right?
Okay.
And so there's immunoglobulin. They're the
Right.
type of protein, but basically they build these receptors that recognize the antigen.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
so they'll go through the body, and then if they detect it, they'll make more.
Boom. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
But
Makes-
that's the least complicated way that I think most people would.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Fun stuff. So got your PhD, and then what made you transition to the like, hey, I've got this cool thing that I tried with my husband and it worked on him, and then he did it on me and it worked with the horse and the boat. And then
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, wait, what?
Yeah. No, I mean, you have proof of
Wait,
concept.
what? No,
It's
what day
it's
was
way
that?
beyond proof of concept, the whole intelligence thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as you in previous
Yeah.
discussions, you use this as you were
All
going
of the
through
time.
I remember you had a
And everything.
professor that we may or may not have to name that you use this on.
All
It's
of
a
it.
little emotional, I think emotional jujitsu, where you use their energy to turn
Yeah.
it around and help both of you.
Right.
And it's not a
Right.
like, I get what I want and therefore
Right.
I win, rah, 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 right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's way more about everybody actually feeling like they win.
Right.
Now, what I tend to find is that people who say like, we want to win-win, like
Yeah.
they're so fakesies, they're just trying to get out of the room. Okay. Because no, I'm serious.
Yeah,
Because
no, yeah.
people who want everybody to win, they want to take the time to assess the situation
Right.
so that they can come at it with an approach that everybody actually feels good.
Mhm.
Because that's winning, right? Like that's when the team feels like they won, when they participated on the team,
Yeah.
right?
So that that just brings up to something to me, and this may not work for you, but I'm going to ask you guys. So whenever somebody says, let me be honest with you, or we want to have a win-win, or if they're wearing their quote unquote religion on their sleeve, not doing it, I always want to run for the flipping hills, because you know that that's the exact opposite of what's really going to happen. At least
Yeah.
that's been my experience. Is that
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would say that typically anybody who says that they're not a thing, it's like they got 5 people behind them to be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
That's
like,
where you pay attention to
yeah.
the body language of the people behind the people.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So these skills, like, it's not just like you can apply them in business. And that was what I realized is what was the trend in my life? How did I do this and do like, cause I just had started doing hair and I was already in beast mode. And I started doing that while I was apprenticing. By the time I had my actual license
Mhm.
and had all the program done, I was already like,
Boom. Where do you go?
like doing amazing and opening a salon, like
Yeah.
like a salon with my mother.
And what period of time was that? I mean,
That was in like within a 2-year
2-year
period.
period. And
Within
that,
2 years.
so you hadn't had 20 years experience or anything like that. It
No.
was just in a couple of years. And I
In
think
2 years.
Myron Golden says, I've been doing the same job for 20 years. I have 20 years experience. It's like, no, you don't. You learn how to do it in 2 to 4 weeks, and
Right.
you've just been repeating that whole
Right.
thing. So that's cool.
Yeah. So the point is that like, yeah, sure. If you want to do a trade, like trades are amazing because it's also like an art, like we
Yeah.
need these people to do
There's
these
so many
things.
people with bad hair out there. Yeah, we need more people.
Well, there's
Look
that.
at this.
Yeah, but
It's-
you gotta have good hair. Well, so you can imagine me getting dropped off in the middle of the science world,
Right,
right? Like
right.
how
Yeah.
much I go over there, right? Like,
You could have set up a whole business right there.
well, so that's what I did is I realized like I had all this experience with people, with women and people and working in business. And I applied those skills to earning my degrees and working with my professors. And then when I had a challenge, like let's say my professor didn't like who I was working with, like we didn't click so well. Instead of being like, oh, he blah, 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 I was like, hold on a second. What's the skill I'm supposed to learn here? Because I do feel like it's all about skill. See, the big thing that they talk about in science is this collaborative spirit, right?
Mhm.
And it's this ability. I break it down in 2 parts, and I think that is also what has made things successful. Is that it's the skill set to collaborate,
Right.
and then there's the spirit part, right, which is your willingness to do it, right?
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
all say that they want to do it,
Right.
but the ability, the skill set, that's not actually part of the program. So the only way to gain those skills is if you, one, acknowledge that there's a lack there,
Hmm.
and then take the time to work on developing those skills.
Okay. So you picked this stuff up practicing on your husband and vice versa. And then, how have you, and I know you've been thinking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
How have you been able to take that and put that so that other people can learn it? What's your game plan on that? Because you need to share
Yeah.
this. I mean, I'm signing up for when you get the course ready and everything. Just because it's important for everything. I
Right.
mean, if you're talking to a human and not an AI,
Right.
you're
Even the AI
yeah, even
really
it,
appreciates manners.
it does, yeah,
No
it does.
problem. Sure thing, Dr. B.
Yeah.
Love you too. Like, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
So what's your game plan for letting everybody out there that's watching
Yeah.
this or listening to this?
Okay, so like now, so like I realized that was the trend that I
Mhm.
saw over and over, and not just in the hair biz, but also in academics and then in biotech. And so when I decided to do this, it was like, no, this is the problem. Like, what is this problem, and why am I so good at solving it? Like,
Mhm.
that's the thing is a lot of us don't realize what kind of talent we're sitting on because we just keep going.
Right.
So like assessing that. So going forward, it's like, oh my gosh, this is where I got that from. And now this is the only way we're going to actually change anything is if we level people up with these skill sets,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm creating a course. I'm
Mhm.
doing a challenge, actually. I'm
Right.
doing a 5-day challenge, and
Cool.
it's the Make More Wins Challenge.
Awesome.
So there's also going to be a book coming behind that.
Awesome.
And my YouTube channel is started, and
Cool.
I've just, for those of you who also do a lot of stuff online. Maybe if you're building your own YouTube channel, and a lot of us are working with virtual assistants, right? People from other countries. And you can see how having good communication skills can significantly impact that. So part of the curriculum that I teach has to do with leveraging communication with your virtual assistants, with your VAs.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a minute. I went through a lot of them. I probably had at least 100 over the years.
Mhm.
And then I finally figured out it wasn't them that was the issue. It was me.
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
when the same problem keeps coming up, it's like, that's our sign. Like,
Right.
if you see something more than a couple of
It might
times,
be
it's
a
like,
sign. Yeah. It's
you
not them, it's you.
right. Right. And my mom used to say this to me all the time. Or like to all of us. She would say that, oh, you take you with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
Like,
No
so
doubt.
you could run from it, but you're taking you there. So chances are, you may end up experiencing something similar.
That strange noise of those strings with the tin cans are going to follow you all around till you figure out how to get rid of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, even with my children, like, they can't win anything. They're like, oh, like they let teenagers come like, all right, mom, seriously, like, how do I deal with this?
Right.
And they'll sit down and tell me all the thing. And I was like, well, look, if they broke up with you, or if they don't want to be your friend anymore, like, let's listen to what did they have to say? What was it? Like, and then ask yourself, like, is that true? Does any part of that feel true? And if it is, what can you learn from this? And I think so many of us, we just want to we don't want to let ourselves see that we're not perfect, right? Because I don't know why. I don't know. No, I don't know why, but like, it's like, so we don't even let ourselves learn the lesson because we won't let ourselves acknowledge that maybe we had a part in it.
It's because do you think it's because it's so much easier to blame someone else than, God forbid, we have to actually think and sit down and take responsibility for ourselves.
Right.
And I'm only saying that because I've got a whole
All of
drawer
it.
for those t-shirts,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I want to burn every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you
it's
do,
tough.
then you don't learn the lesson.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, actually taking accountability is the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to level up in life and you want to accomplish really big things and teach people through your accomplishments to do the same,
It's on you.
because you're living that example. And so just by acknowledging, like, giving yourself that space to think about how maybe is any of this true? And if it's not, then you're consciously becoming aware, focusing on the thing, and then making a conscious decision rather than I'm just going to discredit whatever they said. It can't be true. So they're not learning the lesson.
Yeah.
But if you want to, I like the elevator analogy. If you want to go to the next floor, you got to master this floor. And so that's why we'll keep running into the same experience. We're like, like, people who are dating, like, why do I keep attracting the same loser guy over here? And look, I'm not even saying that, but like, why do we keep experiencing that same kind of thing? And it's like, okay, well, maybe take what all that was and dissect that a little bit. And then you can say, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing. And then we can work on dealing with those skills. So that's actually how you master anything, any trade, any tool, any relationship, anything.
So how do you, so you realize the first thing is taking responsibility, right? Okay.
Deciding which part of that.
Right.
Like, just acknowledging that this is the thing.
Right.
And before you just, before you ditch all of it, really think about that situation and what parts you could do better. What could I learn here?
So my question is a little bit, maybe more oblique to that, but so acknowledging that it's not admitting that you're wrong per se, or that you're wrong, but you're just looking at approaching it from the incorrect direction. There's a better approach from it. So you don't have to feel guilty about it, or, hey, listen, it's not like, I'm a terrible person because I couldn't communicate.
No.
Okay.
It's not about that. It's about you learning the skills to level up, because really that's what we're doing in life, right? Like,
Hopefully.
Right.
Right.
Like
I mean, that's what we're
our
put
days
here
are
for.
supposed to, Myron says, like our days are supposed to progressively be getting better.
Right.
And it's not just Myron who says this is the Bible. Like
Yeah.
God says this, right? Like God says our lives are supposed to progressively get better.
Exactly. You're not supposed to be
Right.
poor. You're not supposed to be
No.
miserable. You don't have to, you don't have
No.
to like constantly get your coffee wrong when you go to the coffee place because they
Yeah.
do it the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, and if you go in with the mentality of like, I mean, I love using the Bible too, which, you know, is not something that a lot of scientists are used to seeing or hearing and discussing, but like I correlate mathematical equations,
Mhm.
even coding. I use all of those as examples to show one, how the Bible is actually in support of that, and
Mhm.
how each, let's say, each thing supports the other, and how they can apply these principles, because right now we're all in acceptance that science is king, right? Well, actually, God is, you know,
I'm
Lord,
kind of
whatever.
not
But
yes.
the science, God used a blueprint
Yeah.
to design everything. We're studying it.
Right.
And those laws right now, I would say that the majority or the consensus is that science is what governs everything, right? They're
Kind of,
not.
yeah.
They're just the laws that we understand,
Right.
that we're privileged enough to understand, that we can also, the point is that we can also leverage those, use them to our advantage, because principles are principles are principles. They apply in everything.
Right. Well, that comes down to the truth. The truth applies
Right.
to this
Right.
and that and everything else.
Right.
And truth doesn't mind if you question it.
No.
It's only things that aren't true that mind when you
Mhm.
question it. And when you
Yeah.
find something that you can't question, you know that it's probably wrong.
Yeah.
That,
So, you
that's
know, Albert Einstein, when he had come up with his E equals MC,
right. Yeah.
right? Okay. All of the scientist community was like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Right.
And he was like, I know I'm right. How do you know you're right? Well, because if I was wrong, it would only take one of you.
Right. And there was 100
To
that
prove.
signed up for it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's correct. And okay, so moseying along here. So how do they find where you are and how to get in touch with you in case they have to go to the bathroom
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something? Let's say want to catch this part.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, sorry. Let's get that out of the way. So my formula is the Be Rude formula. For
Love
I
it.
know, isn't that
Love
funny?
it.
Like I like it because it's like, wait, are you telling me I got to be rude to
Okay.
people?
Get ahead and like be
No,
rude.
no. Yeah, no. But it's catchy and it's fun,
Yeah.
and so basically, I walk them through the Be Rude formula for communication.
How do you spell rude?
Right. Okay. So my name is B.RUED PhD.
Okay.
And so my website is, there's no dot. It's BRUED PhD.com.
Be rude, rued,
Yeah.
rude, phd.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So go there, find out more cool stuff like this. Anything else you wanted to talk about? It seems like I'm missing something big here.
I don't know. I like to talk about everything.
Yeah,
Like we could talk about science. We could talk about
Yeah.
tea, like what
Yeah.
life, marriage. No, don't talk. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah.
No.
So I just had interviewed Anna and Laban, and we're talking
Yeah.
about the whole power couple thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think
Yeah.
you and David, her husband,
Yeah.
are kind of a power couple. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I love the dynamics. Like he gets you and you get him, and
Yeah.
vice versa. And like he's a really cool dude, and
Yeah.
he's got like mad skills and different
Yeah.
things. How did you guys figure out how to fit together? Because
Oh.
they're different, but you're
Like we're totally
like-
opposites. Like we
but
say
you-
opposites
but it's
attract.
like it's just like
yeah.
the same side of a different coin, though. It's
Yeah.
weird. I mean,
It's
I don't
the
know.
yin and yang thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's so wonderful because like I am this very creative but scientific, and I like this like logic and reasoning. He also likes the logic and reasoning, but our talents are very complementary. And this is kind of crazy because like he first was a debt collector.
Mhm.
Right. And so I find that really interesting because what happened in our road was that he started there, but then he made his own collection company.
Mhm.
He learned how to purchase debt. And along with that, like when you talk about leveling up, it's like you have to level up with the next skill set.
Mhm.
Well, now it's crazy how all of those skill sets that he learned and he's gained are very complementary to now where I want to go.
Right.
Like
Cool.
now, and it's like, wait a second, we combine this here and we combine that. Wait, you've got the people for this and I've got the thing for that. Like it just,
Boom. Yeah.
yes, I'm so excited. We've never been more excited because, I mean, when you had, 3 kids and you're going to school, and like I had to cut back on doing hair because I was doing the school. So basically we were both working 2 jobs, you know? Like he was working, like I used to joke, I'm like, he's a debt collector and a Coke dealer.
Yeah.
And by that I mean he worked for Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is where we lose friends.
Yeah.
So we used to joke about that. I'm like, wait, let's see how long we can know somebody without talking about what we do.
Yeah. I usually don't ask people what they do. I mean, if I
I
find them
know.
interesting, I'll ask them. I'm kind of curious, but it's like the last thing I do because you can always. It doesn't matter. I don't care what they do.
Right.
I don't care if you shoe horses or whatever. If you're a cool person, I want to talk
Yeah.
to you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's funny. Like it usually is one of the first questions.
Right.
Like
People
in the
ask.
first meeting that you have with people, it's like they always want to ask, well, what do you do? Why are you trying to size me up?
Yeah.
You're gonna think if I tell you I do this,
Yeah.
then are you gonna think that I'm like, we don't need to be doing that. So like
Yeah.
I don't. Like
Yeah.
we go out and I'm like, all right, we're not talking.
You should say that you are a tour guide for Alice in Wonderland. Yeah.
I was starting to write this book called Wonder Less Innovation because I really think that one of the big issues in innovation is that we're always wondering about what everybody else is thinking, right? Or not what they're thinking. Actually, let me rephrase this. They should be wondering about what they're thinking, but instead they're just wondering what the heck they're talking about, right? But if they actually, in their minds, instead of wondering about whatever it is they're saying from their own perspective, put themselves in the other person's perspective and develop these skills, then they would wonder less
Right.
during the innovation process.
Because sort of like people wondering, like, what am I going to say next? Trying to get that
Right.
all wound up and they're not really listening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like that. You get that part down. I think you're ahead of the game a lot.
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, and leaving space in the conversation, in the boardrooms and really anything, like, because sometimes when you just take a moment and you're not talking, especially in a deal, that means something, right? If you come to me and you're like, okay, B, I want to sell you this thing for $25,000. And I say, no, that's too high.
Yeah.
And I just say no. And I just sit.
Can I make an observation on that?
Like, what are you going to be thinking?
Right. Well, first off, I would never do an offer like that.
Right.
Of course. I know
Of course. But like,
but this is a good point. I know
Right.
you know this, but the other
Yeah.
thing is you tell them all the good things that are going to happen by having the privilege of working with you or buying that thing first.
right.
And we saw I
Yeah.
saw an example of this. I'm not going to mention names or anything,
Yeah.
but supposedly a high level expert just fell flat on her face on this because you need to be you need to think about, and I think this may be part of what you're talking about. You need to think about what's in it for them first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And then get to your
Right.
benefit of the
Absolutely.
benefit to you. But if
Right.
you're thinking 90% of the time
Yeah.
about how it's going to help them, get to X, Y, or Z, or
Absolutely.
stop the pain, or get whatever
Yeah.
they want to do. Yeah.
Well, and
So
this works even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, like, and you like working in corporate or for someone, and that's your thing. Like, I'm not knocking that either. Like, do it.
that
Like,
jam's good.
yeah, that jam can be really good, and it can be better if you leverage these skills.
Mhm.
So, I mean, one of the ways that I teach people is if you're going into your boss and you're like, I want a raise. What are you going to do for me that is going to warrant you getting this raise? So if you can paint that picture, like, hey, I see that there is a need here in our company, and this is how I could solve that problem, how I could fill that gap, right? If you go and you talk to them and say, hey, I'd really love to do X, Y, and Z. I think that this is going to make the company X percentage more on, this rate, this rate, this rate. It's also going to increase our customer retention, and it's going to increase our talent retention, which is a big thing, right? And all of this, and then they say, okay, so they're like, yes, yes. So basically you get them to buy in to the result, right? I think Chris Voss calls it like forced empathy or something. In a sense, it's like show them the thing, they don't actually have it yet. when you make your offer, when they say, okay, so what do you want? How much do you want for that? And you say, well, I want 20%. They're going to be like, what? That's ridiculous. Nobody working for the government is going to get 20%. And he's like, oh, okay. Would you rather I don't do it? Wait, no, we want you to do it. Like they want you to do it. They're like, no, because now you're telling me that I'm losing 100%. Okay, I'll gladly give you the 20.
Yeah.
Right? So that is a skill that is like, I mean, it makes everybody win. Of course, they want you to do the thing that's going to make them make this significant difference in their company.
Yeah.
Right?
So if everybody did this, so I think just so you know, I'm biased here, but if everybody did that, their life would be so much easier.
Oh my gosh, like 100%. Like, one of the funny things I think a lot of people do is they like, and Myron and some other people have said this, like about having shoulds for other people.
Yeah.
It's like, you should not, come at me like that, or you should not honk your horn at me when I didn't move from the stoplight. It just turned green, and it's like, actually, I'm just giving empathy across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I drive the way I feel like I'm going to drive. I'm considered everybody around me. And I look at that part, the communication part, how I treat everybody else as my job. Everything else is a byproduct.
Do you think that men or women have more difficulty doing this? Because I've got my own opinion, but I want to hear yours first.
No.
No, you don't think it's mutual?
I think it can be. I think it can be anyone.
Yeah,
it's a
I
skill.
agree with
It's a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like women are more empathetic naturally. Okay, fine. If you want to tell yourself that, you're giving yourself that's actually just self-limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can develop these skills.
Right.
It's a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you're born with it or you're not. It felt like I was born with it, but really I wasn't. I was born into a situation where I had all these women in my life.
So it was nature and nurture.
Right.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And then when are you going to have your program ready, do you think? In the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. So I think we're probably, because I want to incorporate some of this, the virtual assistant part into it. And also,
cool. That's a good idea.
Also with CAs, I think is what they're called. I don't want to mess this up.
VAs, virtual assistants?
No, there's virtual assistants, and then there's also like an accounting part of this. I know it sounds...
Okay. I have VAs or accountants too, but
yeah, exactly. That are that. So
right.
basically that. So one of the things I think a lot of people who want to become entrepreneurs, one of the main hangups is they're like, oh, but I don't want to deal with all the tax stuff. Like, I don't even know what that would mean. And, and so like, they don't want to venture there because
that's what
they're
accountants are for, though.
Right. But they don't understand how that works. They're worried about getting in trouble with, their taxes and how do I do this and how do I do that? And it's like, actually, I want someone, one of the CAs. So they're basically like CPAs, but they're virtual. And so having like them as part of the program to teach. So not only will I teach them how to communicate with them, give them access to them, but I'm also going to help them with that, because I think if we address that concern for people who want to become entrepreneurs, it's like, oh, you said that we can handle this? Okay, good, let's go. Otherwise, it's like they don't want to do it, because I think that's one of the number one hangups that people who are employed have when they're on the fence about, do I do my own thing? I'd say the other thing is health insurance. Right? Like we all feel like, oh, we need health insurance. Oh, we need it. So now I'm going to try to figure out a way to incorporate that too, because
there's quite a few things out there. And one of my ran into, I'll share with you recently. It's like really inexpensive, believe it or not, that can take care of that stuff. Yeah.
No, that's great. So like being able to solve, help them, leverage the communication and build these things, but also for entrepreneurs that are new startups and this could be for any type of business, but to really help them get that foundation so they can feel like they can.
Do you think you'll like have any master classes or anything, like, or I could pick this up in like a couple of hours? Just give me a couple ideas, because I can see how this is going to benefit, like my company, my relationships, and everything. And just a couple of little things that I picked up from you, like, wow, that's really easy to implement. So I don't know if you have plan on doing that, but I might suggest that, because I would zero in on that in 2 seconds flat. Especially if you could give me just a couple of things that are going to make a difference. So,
Yeah. So I think we're going to launch like the 5-day challenge, and then
right.
that will actually be the kickoff. This is insider, by the way.
Yeah.
That will be the kickoff to the bigger picture, right?
You would expect insider things on.
Okay.
on
Okay.
LinkedIn,
All right. All right.
Because
So
we're
I'm
going to
giving it
get
away.
more leverage. That's how
Giving
you
it
do
away.
it.
Okay. I'm giving it away. But up to that point,
Mm,
I am going live on YouTube. Like my YouTube is about to blow up.
cool.
I haven't had enough. I didn't realize, see, God opens your eyes to the thing, right?
Mhm.
So like I didn't realize how many assets I actually had around me, and now I do. And so I've got the video stuff, like it's gonna be good. So going forward, starting I'd say Tuesday, I'm gonna be annoying.
Awesome.
It's good, like there's gonna be so much of me all over the place. Y'all are what if Brandon Payne with Pain Point Media was like, I should be seeing so much of you. It should annoy me.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, you're right. You
Yeah.
are right.
That's
Andy.
it.
So yeah, that's about what's going to happen.
Cool.
But part of that will be pop-ups. So you talk about those mini classes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go live and do a topic. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'll be doing
yeah.
some pop-ups for courses. So as people start following and, and joining the, like, I'm like EQ movement, I guess is what we're
Right.
doing. I don't
Yeah, I'll. What I want to do too is, this is the first time I mention this public, but I want to make sure we get you on Genius Action Blueprint,
Yeah.
where if you've got a video pop up like that, you can have people go in and buy just that video. And I suggest do it. It's just like buying a book or going to see
Yeah.
a movie. You're going to spend, how much does it go to a movie these days? Like 10 or 15 bucks, something like that?
I think it's, look, I'm like, I feel like it ends up about $15 a ticket by the time you buy, you buy the ticket online for, I don't know, 10, 11 bucks.
I've been
But then they add the service
surtax,
fee.
yeah. So it's like $15. So
I'm like, what?
right.
I mean,
So,
whatever, it's 15.
I would, and I'm not suggesting pricing anything, but what we want to do is have that for like pop-up videos and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, what, instead of entertaining yourself, you want to improve your life, same amount of time, and you're not going to be disappointed at the end of the movie. And then you get to do the stuff, you can make it even better. So that's cool. Anyway.
I'm very entertaining.
Hold
Hold on a second. If you're watching my videos, you will be thoroughly entertained.
Yeah.
I am not your typical, wait, what was this? Like, I have a lot more sass than your typical PhD.
Yeah.
And I do have service, but I'm not talking about the sass, like the
Yeah. That's the hairdresser part coming out too. I think it's a great combo, man.
It's been fun. It's real. I'm embracing it. I used to, pray it down in the science community. I'd be like, okay, B, you can't be excited about this research that's, amazing. Just act boring.
Yeah. No, that's not.
No, I'm like,
I don't think that's the way to do it. I like your approach much better.
Is it?
All right. Anything you want to add? I think I said that a while ago, but this has been fun. So
I think it's been super fun.
Yeah.
And like this time, he's like amazing.
thank you.
Y'all
I
need to
appreciate
check
it.
out his, like, all of his other stuff. He's probably going to play on the DL.
Yeah.
Find my page, and you'll also find him too, because he has been instrumental in really so much of me getting this like going. And
Cool.
you.
Thank you. And I will do everything I can. I like helping people that have things that can help other people. I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Yes, it's so fun. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
and it's like fun. I get to meet cool people,
Right.
and it's neat. So thank you very much, Dr. B.
Thank
It was indeed a pleasure.
Thank you.
And everybody do the YouTube things, like, subscribe, and check out the longercrowbar.com. We will have a full text of this, believe it or not, as well with all the videos. And if you need another access to this, we will help you with accessibility too. So that's it. Thank you again, Dr.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to you later. And remember, health, wealth, and happiness. The key to gaining it quickly is you just have to get a little bit more leverage, and you can move mountains with it.
Yeah.
A little bit of leverage, and you've
Yeah,
got a whole lot of leverage
absolutely.
there. That's definitely a longer
Absolutely.
crowbar.
Well, and I want to give it to them because I want them to have it too.
Yep. All right. See you later, Crows. Bye-bye.
Bye, Crow.